We're getting a little short on time here, and I want to turn it over to the audience here in a bit. But just maybe as some final thoughts, I think in Utah especially, we're looking at a lot of small and probably medium-sized businesses that are trying to move forward into the markets. And I think maybe again, as some final thoughts, what might be some key tips to small companies or medium-sized companies trying to get out there and do that. As I look in the translation world, I think one of the first things that comes to mind is where do we need to translate? Where do we need to actually send out translations? Lou mentioned the Netherlands. The Netherlands is the highest English-speaking country outside of the English, as a second language outside of the actual English-speaking countries. And so you probably need to evaluate some of these things. What is my product that I'm sending? Is it something that's easy to understand? Is it something that's hard to understand? If it's something that's hard, probably it's going to need a pretty solid translation. If not, maybe there's some regions, some areas you can actually get away with without doing some translation there. What are some of the other just brief keys that you could kind of present to a small or medium-sized business trying to move forward?
I've given you 10. I'll do translation first. European community requires that you have the minimum. You have to have your warnings and your maintenance. If you go to our website, we cover at least those on the website with all the European communities that we are in, European nations.
How many languages are those typically then? You have to put the warnings in?
We have about 10, I think, is
10
what it is. And we also have China and Arabic and, the ones that we're doing major business in. We will do at least the warnings, the maintenance, and then also so we're all speaking the same language. We have in all those languages a garage door, the inside of it, with a translation of all the components, so that we can speak the same language if there's a problem, and they can look at the English and their language, and we can communicate. We have everything in metric and British. That's crucial. You ought to see Corey and I in the office if we're communicating with British. We have a measuring tape that has both. It's really fast. So if you're dealing with metric and you don't want to go through a lot of work, get a measuring tape. It's wonderful. And we also give that same measuring tape that has the Martin name on it to our distributors so they can do the same. We don't want to have mistakes made when they order something. But if you look at the things which we have, obtain qualified counseling to develop the international market, use this group. If you need to go beyond, we have professional people here that you've met. We're trying to put together a similar thing to help people. Commit yourself and your company to overcome challenges, just like Lou mentioned, the top management. Select each distributor with research and care. Establish a basis for profitability. Amazing. We got to make money on the whole thing. We don't mind asking for payment by letter of credit, prepaid. The whole thing is, if we don't get paid, we didn't sell anything. We just hurt our company. And so, Corey doesn't like it, I don't like it, but we don't mind demanding what our payment policy says we have to stay in business. Devote continual attention to global markets, international sales department, when the home. Right now, our international department is profitable. Well, it's hard to keep a good profit at Markdorf when California was 50% of our market. And we know what happened to construction there. Las Vegas was another part of it. Well, we're international department is really appreciative of Markdorf's right now. I mentioned metric and British. Treat all contacts as guests on an equal basis. They don't want it here. Well, our U.S. market no. They want to talk about their Saudi market, their China market, their Indonesia market. They want you to think they're important. I did talk to Sadiq Abdulaziz, my friend Abdulaziz in Saudi Arabia yesterday. hey, I might not be working with Martin Door, he's still my friend. I'll talk to him. I talked to Arthur in China, Danielle in China, they'll use their English name, Wasson, and I can't even, his last name's that long, in Thailand. They're still my friends. Adjust techniques and products, we've had to do that for each country. Sometimes different sizes, colors, modify company procedures and products to meet country and regional specific requirements, provide the world's finest things. That's what we did. That's our recommendation. You can see that many of these were mentioned by the same people.
But to do this with garage doors, which aren't like shipping,
They say that again.
This is my hero, and the
Keep making me feel good.
and he's a former guy too. But you visit the factory over at Martin Doors, and just they have it laid out. And you can see these examples. You can eat off the floor. It's an exciting thing. It's a real, and we have a lot of companies almost that good in Utah because garage doors are, something that everybody needs. We'd like to have them needed, but it's not easy to get them around the world. So congratulations.
I'll keep you near me.
I would hope not.
Just one quick, takeaway is, 70% of the world's purchasing power lies outside of the U.S. So we have a great market right here at home. But if anything, the latest recessionary period has shown from a kind of a corporate revenue perspective is the importance of having diversified revenue streams. And that's going to mean not putting all your eggs in one basket, getting out in the global marketplace, getting in the arena, and competing. We have a strong supporting cast here within Utah nationally to help you make it happen, but only you can make it happen. So go after it.
Two things have really popped up to me, and the one is really to know your space. As you can tell from Keith's discussions, and dealing with a B2B type scenario where you're selling your products in bulk to distributors and relying on the distributors to sell them in country is a whole different ball game with a whole different set of challenges than selling B2C direct to the consumer. And so really know what space that you're going to be in. Are you trying to sell bulk to distributors, or are you targeting your product to consumers? And I tell everybody if you're doing one or the other, look at both of them. You may have a market in both spaces and not even know it. We come across that a lot where they're selling direct to the B2B space and have completely ignored the B2C space, and then vice versa, where they've just been selling on the internet, but there's people that could be distributors for their products and sell them. So I have everybody look at both of those. And then the next one that we see a lot, this kind of goes with what Lou was saying, is about getting management buy-off, is know what you can and can't do from the size of your business to the financial commitment and the time commitment that's required. We talk to a lot of companies, and almost always when we talk to some, especially if they're newer companies, they say, "Oh, we're not even looking at international now. That's 2 years out." Well, we talk to them a little bit and show them some things that they can do to get into international markets quite cost effectively, and before you know it, they say, "Oh, yeah." 3 months later, now they're doing the international, and I can give you examples of at least 5 countries where their international business in Asia, after 2 years' time, is dwarfing their business in the U.S.
Exactly.
And they weren't even ready to go into that. So, do your research, know what you can and can't do, and talk to the right people, because lots of times it can be a lot more cost-effective and easier to do than, you don't have to invest millions of dollars to get into some of these markets.
I think most of the points I would say have been mentioned. I can't stress management buy-in enough. I have a client in Detroit, Michigan, who just called me yesterday, a pretty good-sized consulting firm that works in the automotive space. They just set up an office in China, and I heard the same thing from them as I do from my smaller clients here in Utah. That wow, we're overseas now, and so we're a small company. You can't tell me they're going to come in and require me to do all these things. And it's a different mindset outside of the United States. Once you are there, you're there, and ignorance is not an excuse anymore. And while you might be able to negotiate some things here with the U.S. authorities, you won't have the same success with foreign authorities. And so when you make that decision to go international, you've made a large commitment, and that's why I go back to what I've heard from the other panelists. Management buy-in, and you need the financing. You need the money. It's not. It can be done on the cheap sometimes, but it requires resources and investment. So I can't stress those things enough, that you have those, that buy-in and the resources to back you up to help you as you expand internationally.
I'm just going to add one thing. There's a difference between selling internationally and having a presence internationally, too. You don't have to have a legal entity and a corporation and people on the ground in China to be selling your products in China or anywhere else for that matter. So there's a distinction there on those that you really need to factor that into your business model.
We should add another icon.
Was anyone saying something? I'm proud to go to different countries and have people say, Martin Doors is known as the very best in our country. The Consul General Azerbaijan came, and he said, Martin Doors is known as the very best garage door in our country. The Consul General from Los Angeles, that made me very proud. So you have to decide, which market? Do I want to go the lowest? Do I want to go the highest? What type of reputation do you want for your product too?